Hello and welcome to Awesome Bundesliga match day 14. We have to start talking about Bayern Munich because they had a tough week playing in Stuttgart, in Berlin against a good rival in the Champions League like Sporting Lisbon, and they won them all. Great performances by Vincent Kompany's men, and I wanted to highlight one man that we were discussing, Ronan, Lennart Karf.
Yeah, wow, what an evening for him in the Champions League. What another evening. It's the third one in a row where he's scored, and that makes him the youngest player ever to score in 3 games in a row in the Champions League, beating Kylian Mbappe's record. So if he can end up with a career anyway near Mbappe's, it'd be pretty good, and probably would mean that Germany would win a World Cup in the future. So I'm sure Bayern and Germany would be very happy with how he's doing so far.
Well, of course, Bayern very dominant, but also looking very, very good, in my opinion, for the Champions League. But still early days. We have to wait until spring. So, guys, let's analyze this Bundesliga penultimate match day in 2025. So, if you enjoy our video, support us, subscribe to our channel, and of course, leave your comments, your questions to Ronan Murphy. And now let's go on with the show. And we start with a really good game, actually, for a Friday evening. This time in the capital, we have Union Berlin, Leipzig, with Leipzig in really good form, 1 point more than Borussia Dortmund, and now second in the standings after smashing Eintracht Frankfurt 6-0 away, though it's only 1 win in the last 4 games since they drew with Gladbach and lost to Hoffenheim. But this Union Berlin is not that tough. Lately, it's 3 consecutive defeats in all competitions. They lost to Wolfsburg, but it's true also that, for instance, Bayern Munich struggled in this pitch. So, Ronan, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I think we have to look at it as one team that's kind of a bit on a downward trend at the moment in Union Berlin, and another team that seems to be on an upward trend in RB Leipzig. And RB Leipzig's, the fact of not playing in Europe means we'll get this match on a Friday evening, and we're all the better for seeing it, because Leipzig are second in the Bundesliga at the moment, and they've only lost 2 games all season that matched against Hoffenheim, like you mentioned. And then I think they've put the 6-0 on opening day to Bayern Munich. I think they've put that in the depth of their mind, and I've completely forgotten about it since, because they look kind of a much better team, a rejuvenated team. They look kind of sharp. A lot of the younger players are impressing this season, and we spoke about Lennart Karl in the intro, but Jan Diomande, he continues to impress too. He's the second youngest player in Bundesliga history to score a hat-trick. You have to go back to 1965 for Walter Bechtold for Eintracht Frankfurt and he was a midfielder, surprisingly, to find a younger player who scored a hat-trick in the Bundesliga. So Jan Diomande kind of seems to, he keeps impressing, he keeps doing well for Leipzig. There's even been rumours that that other big teams around Europe are interested in. There's talk of a 100 million price tag already for a guy who's played maybe a dozen senior appearances. So yeah, this is a team that are on the up, and a team that I think can be an excellent team and definitely finish in top 4 this season. Well, if not for Bayern Munich, they will be kind of challenging at the top of the title if Bayern Munich weren't so good. So this Leipzig team is hard to stop at the moment. Union Berlin are kind of struggling for a win, like you said, 3 defeats in a row. They have scored in each match, which is pretty good for them. I think it's hard to look past the RB Leipzig win at 2-10 in this one. But if you look at the amount of goals they're scoring, the 4 games unbeaten in the Bundesliga, they've conceded no goals in their last 3 Bundesliga games, so that those points in RB Leipzig to win. But a lot of different players are scoring goals. I know, like I said, Diomande had 3 last week, but they had 6 in total, so other players are scoring too. Konrad Harder was delighted to finally get off the mark. He spoke about it afterwards, about how the pressure was kind of now off his shoulders, that weight of expectations kind of gone, so maybe he can get it in among goals more. They're averaging 2.2 goals per game in the Bundesliga, which is fantastic. Something that Bayern Munich usually kind of do, but RB Leipzig are doing it this season. There are 2.2 goals per game in all competitions, because they're racking up a few against the likes of Magdeburg and the Cup too. So RB Leipzig over 1.5 goals, that looks like a good one here for me as well at 195.
All right, over 2.5 goals in this case for our friend 𝐿𝐴 or whatever his name is from Ghana. Greetings to Ghana from here. Next one is Gladbach, Wolfsburg. Gladbach mid-table beating Mainz 1-0 away after the defeat in the Pokal against Pauli, in really good form in the Bundesliga, 4 wins and 1 draw, so growing and growing in the season. This is not happening for Wolfsburg, only 1 point above the bottom 3, although it was a key win, the one against Union Berlin, also positive. The draw with Frankfurt, the bookies still trust Gladbach and their good run.
Yeah, I trust them too. As the spoiler that you might have seen on the screen indicated what I'm going for in this one. But yeah, they're unbeaten in 5 matches in the league. I know they were knocked out by St. Pauli in the cup, but I think they can focus on the league this season. I think they can get back into Europe through a good finish in the league. 4 of their last 5 Bundesliga matches, those unbeaten ones, they've had 4 wins in the last 5. They've had 4 clean sheets in the last 5 matches too. Wolfsburg finally won last weekend, beating Union Berlin, but before that they had a terrible run, 5 games without a win. So if you look at the recent history between these two teams as well, that's something that the Oddspedia website shows. If you look at the statistics section, which we're scrolling down to, last 8 seasons, Gladbach have won 7 wins to Wolfsburg's 4, so they usually tend to come out on top. I know they didn't last season, but the smart bet is looking at it must be looking at last season, because it thinks that Wolfsburg is going to win this one or has a double chance in this one. They must be looking at last season, where Wolfsburg won twice, but Wolfsburg aren't as good this season. Gladbach much better this season. They have 4 wins already in the league, but they need to improve at home. They've only 1 win at home this season in the league, so they could get their second one here, I think, against Wolfsburg, because this Gladbach team are kind of a very efficient team at the moment. They kind of seem to be tactically clever. They seem to be outsmarting a lot of their opponents. I think they're well coached. I think they can win this one. So as the spoiler said before I started talking about it, Gladbach to win at 205 is my tip for this.
Smart bet, take everything in consideration, Ronan, not only one data point, but all the data points available. Low scoring game for Arif, Nero, 1 or X. Let me know, where are you from, Arif? Since we have one guy from Ghana, I want to know where you are watching us from. Next one is Eintracht Frankfurt, Augsburg. Frankfurt defended better at Camp Nou on Tuesday in the Champions League, but they lost again despite taking the lead. They are in really bad form in the Bundesliga. They conceded 29 is a record this season. And, Augsburg was one of the biggest surprises of the last weekend, beating Leverkusen away, though a little bit poor. 4 defeats, 1 draw. Recently, only 1 win. It was in August in Freiburg.
Yeah, I think they could pick up a point maybe here, because Frankfurt, as you said, their defence usually is a bit porous. They'll kind of let a lot of goals in, and that's what Tom Rennie was talking about on our Champions League show, that they're just too bad at the back, and some of the players need to step up. And I think that's what's happening, because we know they're well able to score goals, or were earlier in the season at least, and they were able to score against Barcelona in the first Champions League game, new Camp Nou. So, yeah, it was an interesting kind of performance from them, but it still left you with doubts, especially the full-time result, and that's their 4th game in a row without winning, so they are on a poor run at the moment. And Augsburg, yeah, they picked up 2 wins in their last 3 matches. That win over Leverkusen that you said was a huge victory for them, a really impressive performance for them. They battled hard, they took all 3 points. I think it should give them a lot of confidence going into this one. Frankfurt are a team that, despite those entertaining matches that we saw at the start of the season, those 5-1s and 6-4s and all those sort of scorelines, they've actually drawn a few too many games, I think, that they probably would have liked to win. So they have 3 draws already this season. The most common result between these 2 teams is a 1-1. So if you had a look at correct score, 1-1 for this one, 840. Looks pretty good. That does not tie into David's over 4 goals bet that we're seeing in the comments, but can't have everything. Someone has to be right. And I think for this one, Augsburg, they could get something from this match, or they could keep it close. So I like Augsburg 8 handicap plus 0.75 at 198. That means even if they lose by 1, you won't lose all your money.
Okay, our friend Arif is from Germany, actually. David going for over 3.5 goals, and Arif 1 or X for this game. Hoffenheim, Hamburg is the next one. Really good atmosphere, really good reaction in Hamburg after beating Werder Bremen with Poulsen scoring the winner. They also beat Stuttgart recently, so they are now 4 points away from the bottom 3 here, of course. They arrive as the underdog since Hoffenheim is one of the biggest surprises of the season. Last year, they were struggling to stay in the Bundesliga. This one, they are looking at the Champions League spots despite the defeating Dortmund at home is 3 consecutive wins now.
Yeah, it was only their 4th defeat in the season. I mean, they're still 5th in the table after it, and that 4th defeat was actually the 190th defeat for Oliver Baumann, the Hoffenheim goalkeeper. I mean, he's now the goalkeeper with the joint most losses in Bundesliga history. He set a new record. 𝐿𝐿, the former Frankfurt goalkeeper, was the guy who had the record up until now. So hopefully he can stave off a defeat for another few weeks, and he won't be the outright record holder for another while. And they should be confident that they can beat Hamburg, because I know the scenes in Hamburg were fantastic, but going to Sinsheim, it's not the same sort of a stadium. It's a bit more of maybe like we see a bit in America with these kind of modern stadiums. We might be seeing next year at the World Cup, these kind of modern soulless stadiums. Sometimes it's kind of Hoffenheim are kind of dismissed because of their ownership model, or the previous ownership model, where they kind of got around the 50+1 rules, and they're not in a huge area. Hoffenheim itself isn't even where they play their matches, so this isn't going to be the same sort of heated, hostile atmosphere that you might get in a Hamburg game, like in the Nord Derby that they were playing, or the Nord-Rhine Derby that they were playing last week. So yeah, this going to be maybe a step down to, or a drop down to earth for Hamburg. Hamburg's their last in the away table with 0 points, so that kind of indicates, or 0 wins, I should say. That kind of indicates that the discrepancy from them playing at home versus playing away. Hoffenheim, they've won their last 3 home games. They've scored 3 in each of those last 3 home games. Over 2.5 goals has happened 73% of the time for Hoffenheim this season. That is not what we saw from Hoffenheim last season, but it is what we're seeing this season, which is great. It's all happened over half the time for Hamburg, 56%. So total goals over 3 in this one, I like at 187. But I'm going to kind of tie that together with Arif Nero from Germany, our commentator, his Hoffenheim to win tip. I'm going to tie that in a little. So Hoffenheim to win and over 2.5 goals is 220.
Okay, let's go to the next one. We have Pauli Heidenheim in here. Really, really important for the relegation. 2 of the teams favorite to go down together with Mainz now. Pauli penultimate in the standings. They drew with Cologne after the good result in the cup with Gladbach, but they are winless in the Bundesliga since the 14th of September. And Heidenheim, what a surprise, Ronan. We were thinking that they were going to go down, but back-to-back wins now against Freiburg and Union Berlin.
Yeah, that kind of gives them a chance. It pulls them out of the automatic relegation spots. Now they're 1 win ahead of St. Pauli, but they're still in the relegation playoff spot. So things could take a turn for the worst again. It wouldn't be surprised at any stage. This is a match, though, they would be hoping that they could pick up some sort of points in it, because these are 2 teams that are kind of struggling mostly throughout the season. In the first 13 game weeks of the season, they have struggled a lot. So if you look at last season, strangely, both matches were 2-0 away wins, which is kind of really strange. If you look at this season, these are teams that are struggling in the home and away. St. Pauli, they're playing home in this game. They're 17th in the home table. Heidenheim are playing away in this match. They're 17th in the away table. So these are relegation candidates when they're playing in the respective venues that they are playing this one. So maybe there's not a lot to separate them here, which leads to a draw as an option at 3.55. But if you look at it in the past, the most common result between these is 1-0. Taking the 2 nils the 2-2-0s from last season, that kind of indicates these aren't going to be. This is not going to be a high scoring game. St. Pauli have only gone. They only gone over the over-under line 50% of the time this season. The average goals is 0.8 versus 0.9 in this. These teams are not even scoring a goal on a game on average. So the over-under line on goals for this one is total goals under 2.25 or over or under 2.25. So we're going with the under. Total goals under 2.25 is 186.
Also for Arif is going for the under. Usually when we have the worst teams in the league, we see a tough game to watch, a lot of tension and not many goals indeed. And the late kickoff on Saturday is Leverkusen. Cologne. Leverkusen lost in Augsburg. It was a big surprise after also another defeat in the Bundesliga in Dortmund. Remember that they beat them in the cup, so the fourth spot is now in danger, playing on Wednesday in Champions League and at the weekend against always a dangerous Cologne, although they are winless in the last four.
Yeah, no wins of 4 and 2 1-all draws in a row. So yeah, this is a team that are kind of not picking up a lot of points, and this is a Leverkusen team who will be determined to pick up points, and even more so because this is such a huge derby game for them. Because if you kind of been to Leverkusen, it's kind of a factory town, and even the players themselves from Leverkusen, they commute to work because they live in either Cologne or Dusseldorf. They don't actually live in Leverkusen. A lot of them, I mean, the board members, people around the club, most of them don't actually live in Leverkusen because it's kind of a very industrial city. I wouldn't say it has too many pages in the tourist book for Germany. If you look at the rough guide to Germany or whatever, I don't think there's too many pages on Leverkusen, but there will be lots on Dusseldorf and Cologne. Dusseldorf, lovely river walks, and Cologne has the cathedral, the famous cathedral, obviously, to visit. So there's lots to like about those places and lots of reason to live there if you're playing for Bayer Leverkusen. But the fans of Bayer Leverkusen, they will disagree with all of that, and they will be determined to make this a hostile atmosphere when Cologne come to town, because it's just up the road. So this one should be a great atmosphere. It should be a great match for a Saturday evening game. Looking forward to watching this one. I think this is one. I know Cologne have been kind of poor of late, but they have scored in each of their last 6 games despite not winning any of the last 4 ones. So it could be a both teams to score a yes match at 164. But you have to look, I think, a bit more. You have to look at better options to make it a little bit more money for yourself. So I think Leverkusen will win this one. So Leverkusen agent handicap -1 is 190. So if they win by just 1 goal, you get your money back. But if they win by more, the quiz in.
We have Shirsai here in the comments also going for Leverkusen, Asian handicap -2. In this case, Arif for Leverkusen to win plus 1.5 goals. Although if we check our smart bet tool, we have double chance. X2 is the pro tip. We can check it now in the screen. We have under, corners, and then X2, indeed, with healthy odds of 2.6. And the consensus is the other one going for Leverkusen. This is also what our audience think. You can also check this out and see what the Oddspedia users think about this game. Let's go to the games we have on Sunday. We have the best games this week. On a Sunday, Freiburg, Borussia Dortmund is the first one. Dortmund back-to-back wins in the Bundesliga now after the draws with Stuttgart and Hamburg. This season, actually, they are doing way better away from home. Some other years they had issues traveling, but they are third in the away table. And Freiburg struggling a little bit this season with 2 competitions. Also, remember playing in the Europa League. It was a big surprise losing to Heidenheim, although at home they are better. Ronan, 4 consecutive wins at home and only 1 defeat was in August, the defeat at home.
Yeah, it was the first home game of the season. They lost, and they're unbeaten in every match since at home. Yeah, they're 7th in the away table. So this is a team that that can pick up points at home. But Dortmund, like you said, they're been fantastic away this season. It's not what we come to expect. It's not what we saw from Borussia Dortmund last season, anyway, where they were kind of unbeatable at home, but they were kind of struggling at times away. They're third themselves at the away time, with just one loss away in the league so far. But if you look when these two teams play, in the past, Dortmund win. They've won the last 7 meetings between the sides. They won 4-1 at home and 4-1 away last season. So they were so much better than the last season. I know Freiburg have improved a bit at home this season, but Dortmund have improved a lot away this season. So you have to take that into account. You also have to take into account the way Borussia Dortmund are playing this season and the way they've been playing kind of since 𝐻𝐞𝐭'𝐬 took over. And the players are definitely taking that into account, because after that 2-win over Hoffenheim last week, Julian Brandt, a long-time player at Borussia Dortmund, one of the senior players at the team, he wasn't happy with the way they were playing. He said, to be honest, it's not my way of playing football if you look at the full 90 minutes. But sometimes I just have to accept it. And then he asked for more possession and more control and maybe fewer long balls. But you can't argue with what 𝐻𝐞𝐭'𝐬 has done since he's come in. He's been one of the best managers in Europe. Dortmund are one of the most improved teams in Europe. So if it gets results, it works. So Julian Brandt, maybe it's not working to his style, because he likes to kind of get the ball to feet. He likes to dribble at players. He likes to make a quick pass. He likes to play a clever 1-2, but that's not really happening under this kind of more direct approach from 𝐻𝐞𝐭'𝐬, where he has kind of one of the wingers playing in a more open role, that he can kind of come in and support the forward, and that kind of leaves things open. He plays very direct. It doesn't really work to a number 10 like Julian Brandt. So you can see why he's annoyed, but I'd imagine a lot of his teammates aren't annoyed, because they're winning matches. If you look at the way they're playing, it means they don't score a lot of goals when they do win those matches. They've over 2.5 goals in only 52% of their matches so far, whereas it's 57 for Freiburg. So just over half for both teams. So under 2.5 goals could be an option here at 2.06. This could be a one where Borussia Dortmund would be happy to win 2-0 or even 1-0. So that could definitely happen. And I think Dortmund will win, because they've won the last 7 times they played Freiburg. So an 8 win is likely. Borussia Dortmund to win is 2.23.
Okay, both teams to score, Dortmund to win for Nuruddin. Arif also over 2.5 goals. Then we have the Asian handicap game, or who knows how to find value in this one. Look at the odds, 1.1 for Bayern Munich. We are talking about top of the table against the worst team in Germany, Mainz, with only 6 points. They are now 6 points away from Wolfsburg, so very likely to go down at this moment in time. Our smart bet to find some value is going for the opposite. Ronan is going for under 4.5 goals, because, of course, the bookies expect so many goals. Perhaps if Bayern are a bit relaxed after so many key games, they could relax and not score many. But it's tough to think also, because they had so many days to rest from the Champions League till this game. But I don't know. Where do you find value here?
Yeah, I think you find value in Mainz to win at 25. I think I'm going to go for that one next week. Yeah, we'll cut that off if they end up winning, and we'll just use that as a highlight or a clip on Instagram. And no one will know any different what I've said after. But that under 4.5 goals doesn't seem like the worst shout, because Bayern Munich only won 3-0 here last season in this match. If you look at the previous season, they won 8-1. So I think that's where we're kind of looking. And we're also looking at the table, because Bayern Munich are so good and Mainz are so bad. If you look at the Asian handicap market, you have to go to Asian handicap minus 2.75 before you even get to 2 for Bayern Munich to win. So it's hard to even bet on goals, because Bayern Munich, you wouldn't be shocked if they won 4-2, but then that wouldn't pay in. That wouldn't pay in, because Bayern Munich are conceding goals. We've seen it so far this season. They have conceded goals. Disappointingly, I tipped it last week that they would come from behind to win, and then they did it the week before, and they did it in the Champions League to come from behind. But I'm not going to say it for here, because it's probably not going to happen in this one. And I think you have to look at that's somebody else. Harry Kane is always the man to look at. He took just 76 Bundesliga games to reach 10 hat-tricks. He smashed Gerd Muller's record of 161 games. So, yeah, nearly or less than half the amount of games it took him to get 10 hat-tricks in the Bundesliga. It's his best ever calendar year. He had 56 goals in 2017 when he played for Spurs in England, and he's had 58 so far this season for Bayern Munich. So you imagine he'd want to hit the 60 mark. So Harry Kane as an anytime goal scorer is 140. But to double that up, Harry Kane to score 2 or more goals, which happens a lot in the Bundesliga. This man loves a hat-trick. This man loves scoring twice. This man just loves scoring against all types of opponents. For England, he will play against Andorra. He will play against Latvia. He will play against everybody. For Bayern Munich, he'll do the same. So to play against the worst team in the Bundesliga this season, he definitely will want to play for the full 90 minutes. He definitely will want to score. He could get a penalty. These are things that are very common in Bayern Munich matches. Harry Kane to score 2 or more goals, maybe where the value is at 265.
Okay, I like it. Actually, of course, he couldn't score in the Champions League, although he hit the post, and he is always on fire. We never say Harry Kane is low in form. He's always ready to score. Indeed, Bayern to win and over 3.5 goals. Bayern to score in both halves. Another option to look for good odds. And the last game is Werder Bremen Stuttgart, with Bremen mid-table, lost to Hamburg, drew with Cologne, is 1 point in the last 3 games. Stuttgart playing Europa League 6th right now in the standings, but very, very close from the Champions League spots. Ronan.
Yeah, I think this one could be a very interesting game, especially with Stuttgart kind of busy in midweek and Bremen kind of having some decent form or decent results this season. They're 11th, they're comfortably mid-table. They're not being dragged into that relegation battle, so they should be happy about that. And I think these are teams that should give us an entertaining match to finish off the weekend. The last 3 meetings, Bremen won 2 of those. They won 2-1 twice. The other was a 2-2 draw, so it usually is an entertaining game when these two sides play. The most common result when they play is also 2-2, surprisingly. So both teams to score, yes, looks a good option here at 150. But you have to look somewhere else for maybe a little more value than that, because 150 feels a bit more like a safe bet than I tip. So over 2.5 goals, it's happened 62% of Stuttgart's games, because they do like scoring a lot of goals themselves. It happened 57% of the time for Werder Bremen, and Werder Bremen are at home, so there should be goals in this one. Total goals over 3 is 186, which I really like to look at.
Okay, well, this is it for our Bundesliga show. Also, everyone is going here for goals, over 2.5 goals to finish this match day. Remember, guys, we have our tipster competitions available for you. You can make some money with them. We have the monthly one, yearly one, and we have rivals also available for you, where you can create your own tipster competitions. There you go. You go to the menu in Oddspedia and you find everything actually there in the tips section. Ronan, let's go with your safe bet.
My safe bet this week is the same as last week. It's Leverkusen draw no bet. So hopefully it comes in this week, 125.
They lost.
Yes.
And the ACCA?
My ACCA is Leverkusen Asian handicap -1 and Dortmund to win for a total of 424. And we got the ACCA right in the Champions League, so hopefully we can continue that streak.
Both ACCAs. Actually, it's a good team, Ronan and Tom, indeed. So if you like this team, Ronan and Tom, after this show, we have another one with the Premier League. So stay here. Ronan, see you next week. Let's talk about the Premier League. Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.